What's going on, Fire Team? Welcome back to Shift Fire, the exploration and appreciation of everything military culture.
You're tuned in to an episode of Interrogations with Cam and Israel. We are going to answer those questions, or we're going to make fun of you for them.
What is the best thing to ever happen to you in the Army?
Wow, the best thing that ever happened to me, in my life was joining the Army.
Yeah, that was good. That was my answer.
If you could have any firearm from history, while in the military, what primary and secondary firearms would you choose?
Mark 48, easy answer. Belt-fed 7.62 machine guns, pretty much the saw, but it shoots 7.62.
It's like a mini saw, right?
Yeah, it's like a miniature saw, pretty much. And as a gun team leader, I carried it, and it was such a good gun. As a secondary, just a pistol. We had a Glock 19, so I would literally just stick with my loadout as a gun team leader that I had. So Mark 48 machine gun and just a Glock 19 secondary.
A cannon. No,
from a ship.
From a ship. A ship cannon.
Which a handheld.
I'm gonna have a ship.
Blunderbuss. Is it blunderbuss?
No, not a blunderbuss. Well, maybe with a little bit more gunpowder.
I still don't know how to really say it. Is it blunderbuss or blunderbuss?
It's blunder. It's like blunder as in mess up and bus as in the short bus.
Because I kept saying blunderbuss.
No. Any AR platform, maybe like the Honey Badger or the Mark 18 now, just 'cause it's a little more modernized with like the optics and stuff, which is really a lot of fun these days when we've been able to shoot those. For a sidearm, I'd love to have those like little mini home defense miniguns.
Oh yeah, I love those.
Yeah,
those home defense miniguns, I love them.
Hey, what do you guys think of the new Sig Spear?
The new Sig Spear, I think
This
it's
is the one that's going to be replacing the M4.
Yeah, I believe so. Okay. I haven't gotten my hands on it.
Yeah.
But I think it's very interesting. I think it's going to inspire a lot of change. They're going to have to amp up their marksmanship training.
Ooh, okay.
And we're talking about a bigger round. We're talking about a brand new weapon system. So everybody's gonna have to be retrained. We're gonna have to focus more on the fundamentals. So I think it's gonna inspire such a dynamic change in the way they teach firearms instruction and marksmanship in the military. So, I mean, I love the M4, but I'm excited to see if the Spear has a flawless transition.
It's the pebble in the water that hits the surface and it causes these ripple effects forcing a change that causes people to adjust, maybe change their mental state, change their perspective on things. I think that's a positive thing because we don't ever want to get complacent in the military.
No, absolutely not. Complacency kills. Have either of you ridden in a V22 Osprey? If so, how does it feel when transitioning between modes?
Oh, that's the Marine main vehicle. The Marine vehicle. It's the VTOL one.
Yeah, it's the ones with the propellers that can go from vertical to forward. Yeah. They are so dangerous. They're very well known for crashing. You know, I've almost rolled out of one just because when it switches modes of flight, it's like a roller coaster. And if you're not safety lined in, I remember we were doing a mega lat, which is our airfield seizure, and we were doing a half. We like all piled in, and I'm like trying to safety line into the bottom, and then when it switches modes of flight, it just goes boom and takes off, and everyone was like rolling, and the ramp was still down, so people were like trying not to fall out the back. And I remember in Ranger School, my platoon was actually involved in an Osprey crash. I don't like the Osprey at all.
Never flown in one. I haven't heard a lot of good things about them. I hope that you Marines can stay safe out there, but no, never flew one.
What's the best rank, in your opinion, to be in the military? And also, what's the worst rank to be in, also for both enlistees and officers?
Okay, so I have best and worst, enlisted and officer.
Very easy question. So I have two ranks for enlisted that I think are god-awful. Rank 1, corporal. In the Army, not in the Marine Corps. In the Army, the pay grade E4 can be either a specialist or a corporal. So pretty much, if you demonstrate the ability to be a leader, but you're not in your window to become a sergeant, which changed actually, which requires corporal time before you become an E5 now, which is a sergeant in the Army. So you become what they call a junior NCO, so all the responsibility of an NCO. You're getting the same pay as specialists, but you have way more work to do. So that sucks. My second one would be Sergeant Major. Sergeant Major is the worst rank. It's the worst rank ever in my opinion, because all you do is you go around, you ride around in a van, tell people to keep off your grass. It's like you try to find things to do because, you know, your first sergeants are working and they're doing everything at the company level. You're obviously at battalion as a sergeant major, but I don't know what sergeant majors do. I don't. Besides like make phone calls and like talk to people about retention.
Yeah.
And like just, you know, stress people out because sergeant major's coming, but church everything up.
Sergeant Major didn't allow me to wear my boonie cap in Iraq because he said it was only for swamp. Private would be just the worst rank because I've seen so many privates that are just dumb. There's some cool privates out there. I just never met any of them.
Oh, absolutely.
And then what about officers? Like, see, the butter bar is
that's a bad rank.
Yes, it's the second lieutenant. It's a gold bar. They call it the butter bar.
It's the lowest pay grade for the officer spectrum. And it's just like you're brand new just because they think you have a college degree, therefore you're an amazing leader. And like it's probably the most stressful officer rank because I'll be honest, you think the enlisted ranks are mean to each other? No.
Oh.
Dude, the officers are brutal to each other just because there's a lot on the line.
The worst rank would be a captain because in special forces, it is doctrine that if you're a captain, you are on a team for only 2 years and then you have to move to a desk job.
Yeah, a desk job. It's nuts. I mean, they focus so much on career progression in the officer corps. I wouldn't want to do that. But next question.
What's going on here? Let's see what we got. Have you had a situation where you were making an awesome / cute thing and someone else ruined your mood, similar to, oh, that's dumb? Like something like you're working on a project and you're thinking, man, this is gonna be so great, it's gonna be awesome, and then somebody just comes in and rains on your parade and be like, that's stupid.
It's hard to think because everything I did was great. No, I'm kidding. In basic training, we had to start digging fighting positions, and you didn't really know a lot about them. And I remember we dug a subterranean machine gun position for the 240. It took us hours too. And then the drill sergeant came over and be like, this is stupid.
During the Q course, we were doing operations where we were observing this one little house where the enemy was, and so we had to do reconnaissance. We were doing our clover leaves and all that kind of stuff, and they decided that they were going to discover us, and I was with 2 other guys who were like my indigenous forces, you know?
Yeah.
So I was like the guy in the People's Republic of Pineland visiting, and they were with me. I had one of our top secret radios with me with like crypto on it and stuff. The enemy started advancing on us. I was like, oh, I got to get out of here like right now.
You left the radio?
And no. I booked it and I left my guys behind.
Oh.
I left my little indigenous forces dudes behind. I ran for like an hour out to like a safe spot, and then I put up a radio shot. I said, oh, we're compromised, you know, I need to extract or whatever. Later on, those guys came up and I could tell they were looking at me like, yeah, you really got out of there quick, didn't you? I was like, oh yeah, I was totally out of there. They're like, yeah, you left us behind. I'm like, sorry, man. I just my only thought was getting out of there.
Yeah,
I figured it wasn't such a big deal because they weren't fellow soldiers. They were just like indigenous dudes.
They're expendable.
I'm like, we got a couple more of those hanging out, so it was fine.
They're expendable. No, but at least it was in training, right? Live and learn.
Yeah, live and learn.
Training's where you make your mistakes, so that way they don't happen. Have you ever had battalion member / squad member get in trouble for violating any local customs overseas?
I was the junior guy, and I wasn't in the military long enough to kind of advance through the ranks and become like a senior dude where I had that kind of responsibility for initiating those kinds of talks and stuff. So everything I got to do as an observer or like a junior guy where I was just kind of like, hey, we're going to bring you along so you can observe this stuff that we do. So later on, you can learn how to do it yourself. I was in a good position where I got to learn a lot of stuff, but didn't get to make very many mistakes in the real world.
We got in a little bit of trouble overseas just because obviously we're fighting ISIS, and like we had a couple of their flags, so we got to take some cool guy pictures with the flags, and like the flags were on the ground, and one of the pictures were like standing on the flag. Obviously, and like giving middle fingers up, like ISIS.
Yeah.
But apparently, that was like a big no-no because on the ISIS flag contains the word Allah.
Oh,
so
the name of God.
Even though, the name of God. So the locals saw it happen, and they got kind of angry with us, and the interpreter was like, you can't do that. Like you were standing on God, so that's like really offensive. So we got in a little bit of trouble. So obviously we didn't do it in front of them. But that's the only instance that I can remember. It was all a learning experience overseas. Definitely a culture shock, to say the least. Have you ever had a situation where you wanted to take the fall for someone else? Absolutely not, because I value my career, not theirs.
Yeah, I never. Fortunately, I wasn't around many guys who were not very integral. No, No.
Yeah, I've never been in that situation either. Usually, it's when you get in trouble, it's everybody holds their own, right? And,
yeah, you're like, I'm standing fast, man. You can take that punishment.
Usually, when you make a mistake, it's very well known that
right. It's not one of those morally ambiguous things like you see in like a television show. It's mostly like, oh, you really messed up, and it's obvious. You're gonna take that. Whoa, the helmet. What are the limitations and weaknesses of drones? Do you think they'll ever fully replace pilots?
Obviously, capabilities are you're not risking soldier health.
Yep.
Another pro is greater access to more thorough reconnaissance and intelligence gathering. Another asset would be man portable, right? So you're always gonna need a man. Pilots are ever gonna go away.
Yeah.
They're just gonna, instead of be sitting in the cockpit, they're gonna be sitting at some desk somewhere.
I just don't know if we would ever get to the place where we fully trust AI and machines and computers enough to want to fully replace pilots. Like, I feel like we're always going to want to have that level of control, whether it's a drone or an actual like fighter jet kind of thing.
You think about the AI thing, right? You know, AI is going to replace your job, but everyone thinks that's the end of the world, but not really. You just have to change your job description to be able to support the AI.
Read a book, learn to code.
Learn to code, easy.
Have you ever had any interactions or cool experiences with helicopter pilots? Like helicopter pilots specifically, or helicopters specifically? Because there's some pretty cool helicopter pilots out there. I would say I've had more experiences with the helicopters themselves than with the pilots. Yeah. Like, for example,
we're not over there shooting the shit with the pilot.
Yeah, we're not like hanging out with the helicopter pilots. You know, they seem like cool people, but actually in Iraq, I flew in Black Hawks all the time. That was a big mode of transportation up there. It's a cool time. They're just doing their job, and I was doing mine.
I rode in many Black Hawks. I've rode in many Chinooks, the CH-47s.
Yep.
160th SOAR, which is the Special Operations Aviation Regiment. They are the best at what they do. I got really spoiled because when we went to Korea, we worked with Second ID, and they fucking sucked. Thanks, folks. Hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, share it with your friends. We'll see you on the next one. Pre-planned to put a gallon plastic bag in my pocket. Mm-hmm. So basically, when we couldn't eat any more pizza and I couldn't shove any more in my mouth, I just started shoving slices of pizza in this bag, and I put it in my pocket.